Well, one of the biggest challenges of setting healthy and achievable goals is actually making the time to come up with thoughtful targets to help us slow down our busy lives. Set intention is registered psychologist Tara Boothby. Tara, thanks so much for coming in. First of all, intentions. How do we go about setting those?
So positive intention is really vital to life, and it's nice to have sort of some direction or some meaning statement. In the past, we might have called it purpose statements or vision, like a vision board or something like that. Anything that helps us to visualize, because the main goal with goal setting is we want to influence our character for self-betterment, for happiness, for meaning.
So let's talk about how to achieve that, because I know for me personally in the past, I thought, everything's so big, how do I distill things down? But a big key to that is slowing yourself down to actually think about it. How do we go about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I was really preparing for this conversation and I was thinking about the Eisenhower matrix, which is pretty classic view of prioritizing, that we want to put emphasis on those things that are urgent and immediate. Prioritize. And so we can get over-focused on all of these things that seem so immediate and urgent that we neglect some of the other categories. So one of the categories that gets most neglected, deleted, or delegated, avoided, are those things that are non-immediate and non-urgent. But these are beautiful and important parts of who we are. This is where our character development really happens, our creativity, our slowing down, our mindfulness. And when we over-focus on all those big, urgent things, it's not sustainable. It becomes painful and we give up.
Right, and in a hustle culture that we often hear about, those things get cast aside. Now, you've talked about the jar and filling up a jar. How do you use that to sort of symbolize things?
Yeah, it's also very interesting because, like the Eisenhower matrix, we use this image of the jar where we put all the big stones in, the medium stones, and then the smaller stones. And it's this idea of like, get everything in there, get everything in there. That's some toxic thinking, actually. So when we look at this other jar where you can see the layers, it becomes more beautiful. There's some of the smaller sand, the medium size, and the bigger size. And we want to be able to see and to measure those things. That we learn that what is important is not always the obvious checklist or the payday, the monetary value.
Now, when you talked earlier about sort of the purpose statement of vision, what is that? What should that represent as far as setting goals? Is it sort of like your blanket sort of focus of what you're going after?
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful question, and a lot of what our aim is like, who am I and how am I? That this character formation is actually really important. When we only focus on the behavioral, we actually run the risk of not being in our window of tolerance. So our window of tolerance is a very important place where emotional regulation exists. And we want to be able to thrive in this zone as often as possible. When we become too behaviorally focused, there's not that intrinsic change in those beautiful parts of who we are, the refining, the sustainable energy to have better impact on our future.
I think we could all find a little time, a little space today to just focus on ourselves. Tara, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Always appreciate the conversation. Tara works at Sojourn Psychology. You can learn more at sojo.ca.